I'm Scott. I got roped into coming here to talk. Really excited about it. I genuinely am. My story kind of started when my garage door remote broke, and I was like, well, that sucks. So I thought I could either go out and spend $100 and buy a new one, or I could look at my tool chest and see what I knew, see if I could build one myself. So it's always also a really good kind of excuse to learn about AWS IoT. I had always heard of it, never had a reason to use it, so give it a go. So then down the track, once you get the data into IoT, it's not that useful by itself, so I had to get Home Assistant to give me a nice app and things like that. So I'm going to talk about what I've done so far. It's not much, and then you're going to tell me what I should do in the future.
Buy some more Shelby parts.
Yeah.
Surely don't carry that.
So AWS IoT started with a kind of a small set of services, and basically it was this device gateway that what it was all about, and it's a gateway that communicates with MQTT. MQTT is a pub sub protocol that's a bunch of times faster than HTTP, and the AWS mantra was like you can connect 1 or 1 billion devices to it. So that's pretty heavy, right? 1 billion devices. But imagine if you were sampling 1 billion devices every 10 seconds of just something. You could pull out so many inferences and so many pieces of data out of all that. So MQTT is also really good for devices that work on low power because it's really fast. It doesn't use much battery. And yeah, so that's how we get data kind of in and out of IoT. You can talk to Device Gateway using the Device SDK, and also the HTTP API if you're that inclined. And then it also had wrapped around it a device registry for registering your devices and some auth that you need, and a rules engine. So when this data was coming in, you could run kind of SQL style rules on each piece of data to route it around different services. So I'm using quite heavily the device shadow, and I'll go into that in a second. But I wanted to show you what IoT is kind of now. So that's really hard to see. Like you can't see that, right? There's a bunch of stuff now. This bit here is what that last slide was. So we get the message broker, the rules engine, CA, and the device shadow. That's now called IoT Core, and we've got a bunch of device management and device defender stuff. So people must have added heaps of devices, and then maybe some devices got owned or something like that, and people, security became a big deal. We needed to kind of manage the fleets of devices, manage the updates, the software updates to those devices, the patching, auth, that kind of thing. So that's where the device stuff is coming in. And then we've got a bunch of analytics stuff over here, and we can now plug in things like machine learning and run inferences off each piece of data. So an example of that would be, say you've got a factory with 20,000 sensors in it. You could make a machine learning model to figure out when failures happen. So maybe when these 4 sensors show this data range for 30 seconds in a row, then you know that part's going to fail. So that's pretty cool. So when over to the right, over to the left, we've also got a bunch of edge computing functions now. Like AWS Greengrass is when you can run a bunch of AWS services offline, actually on your device. So you can actually run Lambda on your device, which is quite cool. So you don't have to be connected to the internet AWS all the time. You can actually do some processing outside of the cloud. And recently there's Amazon FreeRTOS, which is kind of an operating system. It's open source, and I don't know if they've forked it or whatever. Has anyone used it before?
It's a community OS, and they've contributed back to it.
Yeah.
It's not originally Amazon.
Sounds about right. Has anyone used AWS IoT before in a real application? Cool. Okay. Good.
Potential sales numbers.
So the highlights for me why I chose it is because I didn't want to like run servers and stuff in my house. I'm a cloud evangelist, right? So all the data had to go there, and then I'd kind of I know I'd have the data there, and I'd figure out what to do with it later. So the things that stood out for me was this message broker. I could use MQTT, it's easy. The rules engine, so I could route to different AWS services and maybe do actions from there. It's pretty easy to get devices provisioned, so you can actually register a device and it generates a certificate. You just put that in your device and then use the SDK from there, and it's all good. So those are X509 certificates, and then it's pretty cheap. So $1.65 per million messages is pretty cheap, and you get 250,000 messages free a month for 12 months on the free tier. But the device shadow is the kind of the cool bit that I wanted to use. So a device shadow is kind of a virtual representation of a device, and it's used to manage the state of a device in the cloud. So I don't have to, as a client of if I wanted to find out what a sensor or a device was reading, I wouldn't have to go all the way through the cloud to that device to read it, basically. I could just read the virtual representation of the device. And that means that the device doesn't have to be connected to the internet all the time. These devices small, low power, they might only come online, every hour to upload their information, and they might use batteries and have low connectivity, that kind of thing. So it's really good as a client. You could update and view the state of a device. So this is kind of what it looks like, and this is what I'm using for my garage doors. Pretty easy. So the desired garage door 1 open, reported open, looks all good. And I can query this device shadow using the device SDK or the AWS SDK or the AWS public API. It's really useful. If I wanted to make an update to the state of a device, I can update the device shadow. And so what I've got here is I've set the desired to closed. So what happens here is the device shadow it's kind of like a service, publishes that message to an update topic. It's got a $sign at the front of it. That means it's kind of reserved for AWS, and this is my thing name. That's what a device is called. So the thing shadow, I'm going to update it, and then it updates the desired part there. Now, there's obviously a difference between the desired and the reported state. So a device shadow publishes a delta to a delta topic, and that's what I'm subscribed to, my garage door is subscribed to, right? I've made an update to the device shadow, meaning I want a change in state. So my device subscribes to that, runs some JavaScript, and then once the device is successfully open or closed, then it can go and report back on that device shadow, and that's back on the update topic. So this is what it looks like. Oh, is it really small? Yeah, it's really small. Nope. Okay.
Sorry, maybe I've got a bit of a project there.
That's cool. So you set some parameters and you go device.publish to a topic. Easy. So that's all that happens on the JavaScript of the device. It's Node. It's running. I'm running PM2, so I can. So if the JavaScript kind of server falls over, then PM2 will just start it up again. I've never had a failure of this device, which is really cool. So I don't know what I'm going to do when I get a failure, because I won't be able to open the garage doors. So I think I'm going to have to. What's that?
What about internet failure though?
Yeah, we'll see. I'll let you know. I think I'm just going to have to flick the mains power off, turn it back on for a hard reboot.
You drove by the station to my house to unlock the door this morning, so...
So, and this is what it looks like when running from a client, or this is in a Lambda function. So I set some parameters here, which is the desired state. I give it a thing name, which is my device name, and then I've got IoT data, update thing shadow, and give it those parameters. So that's straight out of the AWS SDK. And it kind of looks like this. So this is actually the garage things.
I like your garage is at HA, Scott. So you see some garages.
I haven't connected the third one. It publishes over MQTT to IoT Core, which there's a topic in there, and it updates the device shadow. Same thing going back the other way. The device shadow gets updated by something. It publishes to a topic, comes all the way back to the devices. Any questions thus far?
If you set your design state,
Yes.
and then the device reports a new state which conflicts, does it still remain desired, or does it update that?
It doesn't update that. But it's all about topics, so it will publish any delta, any difference to the delta. So I've gone and added to that. I kind of figured that you've got the device shadow, it's cool, but I need a way to interact with it that I'm used to. Mobile client is pretty easy, so what I've got down here is a mobile client, which can just be like any REST client. I've built a RESTful API and got a Lambda function as a back end, so I can go and update the device shadow when I want, and do a get on the state and see the reported state, or I can do a put on the, put on garage 1 to closed, or something like that, get back at 201. Because my overall idea is my house should have an API, right? I should have like an entity relationship diagram for my house. I think it's pretty cool. And then I can figure out, like, I'm not kind of shoehorning myself into any choice, technology choice. It needs to be kind of open standards, and I can go change my mind about stuff later. So that works really well. I've also taken that and, man, it's even smaller. This is an echo down here. I've got a bunch of echoes around my house. I built an Alexa skill that just uses the API. So that's what I mean by modular. So I can plug things just straight into the API. I don't have to go and figure out all the topic logic all the time. The logic sits inside my API, and it's pretty basic. Any questions?
What device are you using on your garage doors? The physical device?
Yes. So, this is a chip.
That wasn't planned by the
Classic fun.
So this was $9. And it's actually got some good specs. So as soon as these came out, I bought 5 of them. They've got inbuilt wireless in with Bluetooth. They've got onboard memory, 512 gig of RAM. It will never fall out. It will never crash unless you're running 1 gig. Yeah. So, and you can run headless. You can run. I think I'm running Debian or something like that. And it's got a bunch of, much like the Raspberry Pi, it's got these risers here with some 5 volt, 3 volt, 1 volt outputs, so I can use those as digital switches. All sounds great. So I've used all 5. I haven't got into the Xiaomi yet. But I will, because it looks cool. As long as they can use an API.
Well, almost. $9 for a device is pretty good.
Yeah, I know. This is what the website looks like now.
Oh shit.
I was really sad. I want to buy heaps of them. So I think they're built by something called Next Thing Co. And they must have just sold them too cheap, and they went bust. Or like Samsung cut their lunch or something. I don't know. So that's cool. So I've got a way to get data into the cloud, interact with it through an API. I need a way to that's useful and that's like user friendly, right? So that's where Home Assistant comes in. Anyone using Home Assistant? Yeah, most people. It's like the only thing available, right?
That's okay. It's okay. I've been here for lunch.
Nice. So Home Assistant is for me, it was a way to not just interact with the devices that are with IoT, AWS IoT. It's a way for me to not lock myself in again. Maybe I want Philips Hue, maybe I want some Wemos. It can all just be stuffed into there and it will work like in the same way. So that was really cool for me. You can see there's a bunch of heaps of out-of-the-box components built by developers. It is open source, built in Python. Just get into it. It's not the easiest. It's like community documentation. So it actually took me a while to figure out what was up.
Definitely jump on our Slack channel if you're having trouble and just share knowledge with people.
Cool. That's how you have to do it. Like, how did you do this?
You got to be on the WHAM Enterprise Slack channel.
Okay, got to get there. Is there a charge?
Jump on a gold subscription.
Okay.
If you pay for premium, you get 10 as well.
Um,
I'll come to your house and tell you you're doing wrong.
Good, sounds good. So for Home Assistant, for me, wasn't just a remote. Like you can actually see the values I've built out. I've found I'm with Flick Electric, and I found their API, and so I built some things that show me what my current power bill is, and you can see it kind of trending upwards, or the current power price per kilowatt hour, which is quite cool. And it's got a mobile app, so my flatties can use it. I really want to. I've got this old iPad. Like, I have no use for iPads, right? I want to put it on the wall and turn that into a control panel, and put all the useful stuff there. And like all my light switches can go there. What else? Runs on Linux, and it's cheap because it's open source. It's free. So what does Home Assistant look like in the grand scheme of things? It's not too small. So we've got Home Assistant here, and that is publishing to an MQTT broker that's locally on, this is running on Raspberry Pi 3. And so what that does is publishes here, republishes it over to here, which is an arbitrary topic that I've just, you don't have to set up topics, you can just publish to something, and you have something over here that's listening to something. And then I've got a rule that picks it up from there and republishes it on their reserved topic that updates the device shadow, because for some reason I couldn't publish straight to that from the broker. I don't know why. So I don't know if there's a hack, but that's the way it works. And then that publishes to a Delta topic, which are the garage door devices are listening to. Any questions about that?
So what's because the system I'm running is basically the same as this, but without any of the AWS stuff.
Yeah.
Just the two on the left.
Yeah.
In this case, what is Mosquito actually doing? Why can't you just set up Home Assistant to just point at the MQTT broker in the AWS cloud?
So this one has its own MQTT client, whatever. Apparently, what my reading is, it's not that good, so you can run Mosquito, and it just republishes it from that to that.
Okay.
I haven't had any troubles with it.
So it just somehow manages to just forward it on to the next thing?
Yep.
Cool.
You give it the thing name, you give it a bunch of stuff, like you tell it how to get it.
Yeah. Like for these topics, forward to this other server.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
Cool.
Cool. So future plans. So this was kind of like the first project and the foundations for everything that I want to add to it. Like once you get into your first project in home automation, you don't stop there. Like you just want to connect all the things. So my next project is the heat pump automation. Now I've got one of those old school Mitsubishi things that's on the wall. You got an infrared blaster that sets the temperature and things like that. Super legacy. It's not like the centralized AC units in the US where you can just replace your thing with a Google Nest and everything's good. This one is, it's probably what everyone in New Zealand has. So,
New Zealand houses been heated.
yeah. So someone has actually taken one of these to bits and found the control board and found that there's 4 pins and went and probed them and figured out that it's actually a UART controller. So this, if I ever met this person, I might shake their hand, because they've figured out like the machine codes that it takes to update details on the heat pump, and then written a Node.js library for it. and publish it on GitHub.
Oh, that's lovely.
So all I have to do now is make a little riser that has four pins, 4 female things, and then plug it in, and then run a Node.js server, stick the Raspberry Pi to the side of the heat pump, and internet connected heat pump.
Cool story. That connection seems to be standard across the entire Mitsubishi line, including like the big central units. So pretty much, as far as I can tell, any generation that has that has got the one protocol,
Cool.
which is pretty handy.
I'm pretty sure as long as you figure out what voltage the TTL is running and then the baud rate,
Yeah.
it's probably across brands as well.
I used the IP module because my soldering electrics are so bad. I didn't want to fry my very expensive air conditioner. But if you've got an older unit and you're brave, then definitely check it out.
Insurance. Yeah.
It's on a risk management sheet.
I was stupid, that's what insurance is for. And then number plate recognition. So those of you with a keen eye would have seen the Amazon Deep Lens there displaying on the TV earlier. So that is a wireless real-time deep learning enabled camera, which is quite cool. So it actually has, you can create a deep learning model and train your model and then deploy your model to the camera. And then it doesn't need to connect to the internet, it can do the inferences on the camera and then feed that data, like the inferences back. So what I want to do with that is build number plate recognition with something like TensorFlow and Amazon SageMaker, and train the model with a New Zealand number plate photo dataset, which I might have to make, and deploy it to the camera, and then make a waterproof box for it mounted outside. But I also want to go a step further than that, because you could probably just hold up an A4 piece of paper with my number plate and the garage doors are open. So I needed to figure out what my car looks like, and it has to be, like I think I might have to put a scratch or something in it. So it's definitely one of and then I had to tell it what the front of my car looks like and what the rear of my car looks like. So when I'm driving down the driveway, sees the front of the car, I'm getting home, opens, you can use Home Assistant with the automation to open the garage doors and turn the lights on, something like that.
Would you still trust it?
I don't know. But I had an Alexa skill, I could just yell through the window,
Right.
Alexa, open the garage door. Yeah. Please! Oh well, security. Yeah, so there's probably a bunch of other applications I could use for that, but that sounds cool. More sensors sounds good. I've figured out that if I know the inside temperature and I know the roof temperature, the inside temperature lags a lot, lags behind the roof temperature quite a lot. So if you can see the roof temperature going down compared to the inside temperature, then it's getting colder. So maybe you want to turn the heat pump on before it actually gets cold. Yeah, insulation. And what else? Got this idea from Jethro, humidity inside the bathroom. So sounds dodgy, but yeah, you'll be able to figure out if someone's taking a shower and turn on the extractor fan. When the humidity gets below a certain value, then they can turn it off. That's quite cool. And then bringing in some security with motion sensing, that kind of thing. Maybe it sends me a push message when someone's trying to steal my stuff. That would be good. And then so a bugbear is like opening and closing the curtains is really annoying. So I first need to figure out motors to do that, and like pulleys and gears and stuff. And then it should be easy to automate that.
Have you seen this guy on YouTube called The Hookup? He's done plans in a YouTube video for stepper motors for
Perfect.
big awning, but that's probably going to
Yeah, stepper motors, I just need some old Epson printers.
I don't want to be that guy, but show me that product, please.
I've got my client that I keep talking to the wife that I want to put on roller shutters, but I haven't got that.
Perfect.
Line.
Here we know. It'll be easier with blinds because they're already kind of
Yeah, that's Roman blinds. Yeah, heavy too.
Yeah. So this is the point where you will tell me what to do next and what to prioritise. What have you done?
I think you should let us know when you do the number plate / car scrap recognition, so I'd love to print in front of your car with a banner and see it.
Yeah. No.
So does the AWS IoT stuff, is that all logged by a cloud trail, or what or whichever one it is. So when it hits that, the AWS IoT cloud stuff, is that logged as API call? Or?
Now at the moment it just kind of goes away, but you could definitely save off that and state somewhere else if you wanted, or set it to
So there's
publish
no
logs.
trail watch, whatever.
No, at the moment.
stuff.
No, it's
Little
secure. But
tricky trying to keep track sometimes of which products Amazon Cloud Trails doesn't. But my general rule of thumb is if you're making an Amazon API call, it'll be cloud trailed.
Yeah.
But if you're interacting with a resource, it won't be. So creating a Lambda will be cloud trailed. Utilizing a Lambda by HTTP wouldn't be. Creating an S3 bucket is, exiting S3 object isn't. Things like that.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Is there any lag time?
it's really fast because it's going to Sydney and back. It's really fast. I think it's something like 220 milliseconds. Yeah, fast. It's fine. I've got ideas of like remembering the data like when I get home and stuff, and then machine learning that, and then maybe it can populate my calendar or something when I'm going to be busy or I'm going to be out or home or something like that. To let my flatmates know when I'm home or not. Someone needs to take the dog for a walk, that kind of thing. But apart from that, that's it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Scott. I really appreciate it.